further part of the teaching in the new style of writing. By Billy Edward Albert Meyer, Beam, in accordance with the theme pre-given through the teaching of the prophets. Chapter 21, verses 1 through 30. 1. If you human beings are actually observed and analyzed, then it is noticeable that none amongst you can entirely accept himself or herself in his or her natural kind. 2. Built up in each of you are basic prerequisites and basic thoughts, as well as their out-resulting basic feelings that belong to you, which are in you and remain in you until you pass on and depart out of the life through the dying. So, for example, the committing of errors and the striving, so that the process of the learning and of the evolving can function at all, as well as aggression, anxiety and fear, joy, happiness, guilt and sorrow, or thoughts and feelings of the superiority or the inferiority. 3. The whole is based therein that your human life, as all life indeed, is founded in an interaction between contrary factors, and this contrariness is a determining factor for everything which exists, lives, crawls, and flies. For the law of the contrariness is given in everything, whether it be in the ebb and flood of the seas, whether in the blowing or the calm of the wind, in the day and in the night, in the light and in the darkness, or in the male and the female, in the life and dying, in the birth and in the death, in the noise or in the stillness, in the love and in the hatred, in the peace and in the war, because this law of the contrariness is interwoven into all and everything, and is therefore recognizable everywhere. 5. However, a closer observation and consideration of the law of the contrariness leads to the recognition that the basic prerequisites, basic thoughts, and the thereout resulting basic feelings can by no way be regarded as scourges of you human beings, because they fundamentally represent challenges through which the life is primarily made worth living, since it is through this encouragement, which is what the challenge actually is, that more and more truth cognitions, joy, and more deep sense reality is extracted from the life. 6. If, however, you human beings are of the view that you cannot accept yourselves amply, then this direction of reflecting corresponds to a view that is based on entirely wrong modes of understanding and wrong modes of observing and considering, which have been made in a wrong wise due to prior wrong interpretations of life experiences. 7. Indeed, you generally urge yourselves to put all and everything that meets you or happens to you in the negative light, and therefore to negate everything to a large extent, instead of recognizing the good and positive and evaluating it, so that it becomes to the positive knowledge and to the positive life attitude. 8. The wrongdoing of the negation is, however, truthfully not the depth of the self-rejection of you human beings, but rather a no more and no less strongly distorted picture of your own thought and feeling world which, namely, esteems you in the bottom of your inner nature as extremely valueful, but which you want to turn to the opposite through wrong thoughts and views. 9. Truthfully, indeed, built up in each one of you human beings in accordance with the law of the contrariness are not only negative basic prerequisites, basic thoughts and basic feelings that you have created yourselves, but also positive ones, only that these are generally covered and overlaid through negative ones, and so are hardly or not at all felt and diffusely deformed. 10. In spite of being covered and overlaid through negative things, however, the positive basic prerequisites, basic thoughts and basic feelings do exist and are merely waiting to be brought forth and utilized. 11. These positive basic prerequisites, basic thoughts and basic feelings are high inner values of you human beings, such as true love, inner freedom, harmony, and inner peace, as well as virtues, honesty, courage, compulsion to be active, character strength, personality development, longing for the truthfully life, for the creational laws and recommendations, for the fulfillment of the sense of the life, as well as for wanting to be something oneself, and for wanting to be oneself. 12. Truly, you human beings are chased by your drives, but you must yourselves search for their sense, since through the creational laws and recommendations you are given to freedom in your own will, so that you yourselves may fathom out everything and subsequently decide the whole. 13. Therefore you also decide yourselves, if you are befallen by anger, that you once again struggle for reconciliation, are not seized by hatred, so that you can create the love in yourselves and also win the love of your fellow human beings. 14. Often, melancholy creeps into you human beings. However, only so that you may find the origins of the true joy without you letting yourselves be encircled by compulsions, and you can reach out for true love and inner freedom, harmony and inner peace. 15. And truly, the volition never comes from nothing, because in truth you must search for what you want as human beings in your own inner nature. Find it and motivate it to the will, but to do this, thought impulses are needed, through which then the will is built up, and through which then the life is changed, if you only let yourselves be touched and guided by your true inner nature. Therefore you shall involve yourselves in things which you recognize to be really valueful, and of which you think that it can stimulate you. 16. Naturally, each of you human beings, with extremely few exceptions, has quite distinct fundamental problems which accompany you and which weigh on you to a greater or lesser extent, whether it be anxiety or fear, jealousy, envy, stinginess, vice, pathological craving, hatred, immoderateness, or pathological craving for wasting things, etc. However, it should be important for each of you to recognize these problems in detail, because they determine the life and therefore should be fought and cleared up. 17. Such fundamental problems are not only the greatest tasks and challenges which you human beings have to master, because you must also become aware and learn to understand that everything in the life is founded upon contrarinesses, as a result of which, given the due effort, each thief or deceiver can become honest, the angry mild, the immoderate modest, and the angstful courageous. 18. Indeed, your life is extremely exciting and instructive in every wise. It only needs to be understood. 19. However, understanding what is exciting and instructive is not merely a matter of these two factors, but in truth it is about the effective life which demands that you as human beings are your own best friends. 20. Being your own best friend means that you are such towards yourselves as you sometimes can be towards the most beloved fellow human being and friend. 21. And if you do not succeed in upholding the friendship to yourselves on one day, or even on 2 or 3 occasions, then the rule to follow is not to build up any vexation about this, because the next day will certainly come on which the friendship to yourselves will once again be successful, because just as the next day comes and the world exists, everything of high values in you human beings yourselves can also be made permanent, if only the initiative thereto is seized. 22. And because you can make everything in yourselves that is of high values permanent, there is no reason not to want to continue living in this world. 23. Truly, there are very many terrible things in the world, such as the air, the earth, the nature, the rivers, and other bodies of water which are polluted, and the wars that are becoming increasingly more brutal, the unhumaneness, the crimes, the criminality, the hatred, the murdering, the fights of all kinds, and the anxiety and fear and uncalmness in the human beings. But the life is nevertheless worth living and is a valuable gift. 24. But you human beings of earth, you do not live and vegetate from day to day if you are striving for your existence. And despite all the existing terrible things and many evils and unfairnesses that you experience, you still like many things that give you joy. 25. And you human beings of earth, always consider that, whether you are joyful or sorrowful, this world from which you suffer is your world, your home, a wonderful paradise in the expanses of the universe. You only need to recognize it as paradise and do everything for it to remain a paradise. 26. And consider this time through which you are going, because it is your time, just as this life that you are now leading on this world and at this time is your life. 27. Truly, this world is for you human beings of earth in endangerment with regard to many kinds of things, but at the same time it is also a possibility and a task for you which you can fulfill in free will, in order to maintain the world as a paradise and at the same time to create a paradisiacal condition in yourselves, through which you truly begin to live. 28. You can reject or accept your world, just as you can also reject or accept the good world in yourselves. Therefore, starting from today, you can make yourselves available to this world and to the truthfully world in yourselves and work thereon so that everything turns to the best, in your inner world and in the outer one in which you live and which is your home. 29. Truly, you cannot give the bland speech that you are unable to change anything in yourselves to the better, and, as individuals, that you cannot do anything for the world either in which you live, because these are only conscienceless and irresponsible pretexts of the cowardice. 30. If you, however, hold to this standpoint of the pretext and cowardice, then it indeed looks very dark in you, as a result of which everything will be aggravated and rendered even darker, and indeed both in yourselves and in your world that you will turn from the paradise into the hell if you continue everything in the same wise.